All right, let's take a look at an example. Number one, an object moves along a line so that the velocity is given by this formula in feet per second. Find the total distance traveled and the displacement from 0 to 5. So let's kind of take a look at this. Let's look at this graph. So I'm going to start off and graph our function. So we have negative x squared plus 4x. And we're going from 0 to 5. So this is kind of a good look at it. Um, I'm going to go ahead and take that graph. You should go ahead and sketch that in your notes. All right, so we're looking at the area from 0 to 5. So we can disregard all the stuff here to the left. But we're looking at this portion of the graph. So we can tell that the graph is above the x-axis in this region, and then below the x-axis right here. So we know that this is going to give us positive value. This is going to give us a negative value when we talk about area. All right, so let's see. We're finding the total distance traveled and the displacement. Well, displacement is the easy one. All we have to do to find displacement is take the definite integral, in this case from 0 to 5, of our velocity. So negative t squared plus 4t dt. So the area under the curve will give us the total displacement. Sorry, not total distance, but the displacement. How far the object is moved from beginning time to the end of the time. So in this case, we can go ahead and use our calculator and evaluate this, although it's not a very tough one to do by hand. Remember, on our calculator, we're doing math 9, negative, even though it's t here, we can still use x in our calculator. The variable doesn't matter there. So negative x squared plus 4x, comma x, comma 0, comma 5. And of course, if you have a newer updated calculator, you have an actual integral sign. You just have to fill it in like you see it here. So if we find that, we get 8.33. Change that to a fraction, we get 25 thirds. So that's approximately 8.333 feet, or 8 1/3 feet. So that's our displacement. So after this 5 seconds has elapsed, this object is 8.33 feet away from where it started. Now, if we want to find out the total distance, because from this graph we can tell velocity changes from positive to negative, so it stops and changes direction, we can figure out the total distance traveled. Remember, one way we can do it is by splitting this up. We can find the definite integral from 0 to whatever this value is, which looks like it's going to be 4, and we can figure that out for sure in just a second, minus the definite integral from 4 to 5. Now, in most cases, we're not going to go through this. It's a little bit more time consuming setting up too, but you'll notice on the AP test sometimes you'll have to do this. You may not have to actually evaluate these, but setting up an integral or pair of integrals that give you that total distance. Now, how do we know that it's 4 other than looking at the graph? Well, we can figure it out by figuring out when is this graph equal to 0? Well, there's our equation. We want to know when is negative t squared plus 4t equal to 0. Well, we can take out a negative t. We get t minus 4. So it happens at t equals 0 and t equals 4. So that's how we can confirm what we see there. Or in our calculator, we could calculate the 0. But again, like we said earlier up here in the notes, there's an easier way to do this. If we do the absolute value of the definite integral from 0 to 5, sorry, the absolute value of that velocity. That's going to be the same thing as doing this. Now, how do you do that in your calculator? Well, we go ahead and start off the same way, math 9, but we need to do the absolute value of that. So you can find absolute value under math, and then if you move the arrow over 1, NUM, first option there is absolute value. You have to be careful with parentheses here. We have negative x squared plus 4x. Now we have to close the parentheses for that absolute value. That closes up what we've done here. Comma x, comma 0, comma 5. So this is going to give us, I was thinking for a little bit, our total distance traveled, and that came out to 12.9998999. So we're rounded to 3 decimal places. This is just going to round to 13 feet.